Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our Cosmo Campfire. This month, we'll be taking a look at our billing event generator wizard. Let me know if you have, I think you see our PowerPoint set up already. But if you have any questions, we'll wait just a couple minutes to get everyone else added onto this call and we'll get started right away. Awesome. Thank you for everyone for joining. Again, this is our Cosmo Campfire on the Billing Event Generator Wizard. We'll be taking a look at this feature on our billing tab in the project using the generate button. If you have any questions, make sure to put it into the chat or the Q&A channel, and then we'll make sure to answer all these questions at the end of the call as well. Awesome. Just introductions. My name is Janaya. Myself, I am a customer service rep with Aprika Business Solutions. I've been with the company for 2.5 and hitting 3 years in January. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for 3 to 4 years myself as well. And I'm excited to be showing you our billing event invoice manual entries through the generator today. As we take a look at our billing event generator, this is going to show us a key feature of be able to generate those billing event invoices automatically and specify maybe what specific time logs and expenses that we want to add in each of our billing event records. And that way we don't have to create them manually one by one. That way it's all in one feature and we could just toggle which ones we want. We're going to be able to understand the billing event generator wizard. Within the generator, there are 3 tabs. The 3 tabs are the time and materials, TMI wizard tab, the manual tab, and the controlled on the milestones tab. As we take a look at this, we'll walk through each of those different project types that we'll be able to see these tabs pull up. And that way you can see how you can generate those billing event invoices manually by using the billing event generator. We'll be setting up billing event items and billing events and the billing event items via the generator to accommodate different billing types or different milestone billing types. During the TMI Wizard tab, you'll be able to show you the 4 steps that you can walk through to create those invoices. That way you can specify and select specific time logs or invoices that you want to generate as a line item on each of your invoices. You'll also be able to see a standard central user interface for all your billing event items and your billing event records using the manual and the control of the milestones tabs. So to kind of give you a better understanding of how this all looks like, I've drawn up this table graph for you to see the 4 billing types that we'll be looking at. So if you're doing a manual billing event, so invoice, obviously all these have to be manually created. You can create them manually one by one on the billing event list view or on the billing tab under the project overview. And then you have to go to the billing event related item to create those one by one. But the nice thing about the billing event generator is that it consolidates everything in a one-stop shop place for you to do it all. So if you know that your project is time and materials and you set that on your project billing type field and you've selected that and you've selected the billing cycle as manual, you'll be able to see the TMI wizard. If you know that the project is fixed price or fixed price plus expenses or time and materials, then you'll be able to see those tabs. Then you'll be able to see the manual tab as well. Whereas if you have a project that is controlled on the milestones, meaning that you have each of your milestones and you want to bill it directly on the milestone. So you have maybe your first milestone is fixed priced and you have the flat fee for 2,000 that you want to charge for in the next milestone. And once that milestone or sprint is completed, you want to go to the next milestone and you want to charge for time and materials for that second milestone, and so on and so forth. So on the project where the billing type is controlled on the milestones, you can control the billing type for each individual milestone within a project. You have to make sure to go to each milestone and select the specific pick list for the billing type. So that field itself will be called milestone billing type, and you have to make sure one of these options are selected for each milestone record in order for that to controlled on the milestone tab to pull up on the generator. And so we'll see how this all looks as we get started. So I'm going to exit out of here. And I'll show my sandbox. Awesome. I believe you can see my sandbox currently. Let me know if you don't at all. I'll make sure to check our chats. Okay. We should see my sandbox being listed here. I have this. Okay. As we take a look at our sandbox here, we can see that I have my projects depicted so I can specify, so I remember which one is set up in which way. I have my list view to show me, okay, which ones are controlled, which ones have a billing type of time and materials, what is fixed price, and obviously all my billing cycles are manual. So I have that set up for me here. You can create a list view and you can say, I want to see all projects that have a manual billing cycle. You can do that as well. So typically, as I showed here, I'll just use this one for an example. If you go to your billing tab, you don't see the generate button, and this is where you're going to find your generator. It's not going to pull unless you have those two fields depicted on the project field. But if you wanted to create a manual billing item, you can do so by just manually creating it here. So I'm just going to create a test one for you to see. So this is going to show you that you have to, manually create them one by one, right? Um, and so I'm going to create that billing event, right? I have my billing event on my billing tab. Now that will be generated. You have that created here. However, there are no line items yet. So you have to make sure to go into them and create your billing event line item. So this is just a little bit more work out of the box. And then you have to make sure to create your line items. So that amount, each of those line items, maybe you want to charge the customer 1,000 for this project line item. Once that has been created, you'll generate that. So this is just out of the box how that created, but so you'll see the differences of manually creating one by one. So this is gonna make you create each of those line items, or maybe charge the payment. So maybe you already know that the client has paid you. You can charge those, and that will show on the invoice as well. Right now, we are just looking at the generator. And so once you've had that set up, obviously we're going to take a look at our TMI wizard first. We see that our project budget is 13,200. You want to make sure that the details, the fields are set up correctly. We have our billing type as time and materials. We have our manual billing cycle set as well. We have our tax labels if you want to depict those. I've added billing rates to the project. I've logged time already. I've selected a project budget. So this field is a currency field. It is a numeric currency field that is not related to any trigger automation. It's not related to any budget items. So I would just want to make that clear. So it's just the set value that I've depicted that I'm gonna set aside 13. That this project is gonna take up this much time for this much revenue that's going to bring in currently that I've set aside, right? So you can go ahead and set those there. I've gone ahead and created my time logs. You see that here. There's 3 milestones, but I've gone ahead and only logged time for some of them so far. I've added some pick list views, approval statuses, and you'll see the billing of an item. If you go into your time logs, you'll see that there are a invoiced and billing line item. This will show you that, which time logs have been invoiced and what line item have they been invoiced. Were they included? Which billing event were they included to? Because it's going to pull in the line item record that it's going to pull from. This will auto populate, and so we don't have to worry about that, but we'll see that towards the end. We also have our expenses. So I know I've accrued an expense on the project itself by, creating that manually here, or you can go to the related list on the expense on the project and create that. You can go to the milestone as well, the milestone record, and go to the related list and create a milestone. That's what I did. I've added those expenses there. When you go to your billing tab, now you will see your invoices, you'll see the charts, the summary, obviously out of the box. You'll see now that the generate button it has been populated. This is going to show you the billing event generator wizard, and they'll walk you through those tabs and those steps that we'll walk through in just a second. Obviously, we have our project budget that was depicted on the details page. The amount invoiced is the amount invoice that we've invoiced to the customer. It's going to take the total amounts on each of your billing event items and add it as a summary. The amount remaining is going to be the amount that we have scheduled, right? So this is what I'm scheduling this project is going to be roughly. So currently out of the box, since there's it's going to look different. This value is going to, some of these values are going to look different for each billing type, project billing type that you have. Since we know that this is a TMI project, the amount remaining is going to take the hours scheduled. So if we see our hours scheduled value here, it's going to take the hours scheduled value here and it's going to add along with any anticipated expenses. I believe that's up here. Yep. So we have any anticipated expenses. So it's going to, add that 12 with this 175, and it's going to give you that amount for the amount remaining, right? The amount paid is just what the billing payment records that you've tied to your billing events. We'll show this towards the end as well, so you'll see that roll up. The amount outstanding is going to show you the total amount outstanding on your billing, the summary of all your billing event records. So it's going to add that amount on all your billing events for the amount outstanding that is owed. As we get started and generate that, the billing event generator is a great tool because then it's going to show you step by step, like all the records that you do want to see. So if you know that you have numerous time logs, if you have numerous expenses, you can consolidate, but you can also specify which exact time logs you want to see. Out of the box, it is going to pull all approved billable time logs and expenses that have not already been logged and that have not already been billed to the customer. So if you already have time logs and expenses that are already billed, it's not going to pull those into this preview list as we go into each of them. You'll see the 4 steps. You'll see the drafting. You'll see the time log and expenses that you want to specify that you want to add to this billing event, and then you'll review that towards the end. So I'm going to go ahead and just draft this as my monthly bill, my monthly invoice for the customer. I'm going to type and the type that I'm selecting is an invoice. Obviously, this isn't a credit, but you could create that credit onto the billing event record itself. We're just looking at invoices for now. The statuses are going to show that this is just my draft status. I'm not sending it to the customer just yet, just for my records. But once I have sent it to the customer, then I can mark it this as issued. It's been issued to the customer, paid. Obviously, this invoice has been paid or whatnot, so that we can depict which invoices have been paid or which ones have not been paid. The project and account types are going to be available here, but they're already associated to my product, so I'm not going to worry about these fields. The amount and the invoice date is going to be today, but I know that it's going to be the due date for the customer is going to be at the end of the month. And I'm just going to put monthly final bill for my summary. As we click next, it'll go to our add time logs. So when we'll be able to specify and filter down which time logs we actually want to see and add to this billing event record. That way you don't have to manually pull select each one of them and associate them into the billing event. You could just pull them in through the generator. We have our filters settings, a date source and date range and item grouping. So if you want to just pull each this is just going to pull from the milestone dates created when they were created. So maybe you just want to see all milestones. No, I'm sorry, all time logs that were created on a specific date and had a specific that it didn't specify that you don't want to you don't care what dates they were, but you just want to see all milestones. So I'm sorry, I keep saying milestones, but you want to see all time logs. So if you want to see all created time logs, then you can do so here, and you can also do so here on the date range. However, let's say that you want to specify like I know my managers approved a certain time logs already, so I only want to see time logs that have been approved by their time log approvers, and I only want to see so far time what is it time logs that have been approved from the first to halfway through the month. So I'm going to say the 14th. That way, I'm only pulling in time logs that are within this approval date that I know have been approved within this time log. Um, and so that will pull in those. And the item grouping itself, the billing event item grouping, is going to group these line items for you. So in this case, as we take a look at our billing event line grouping, there's four sets. The date source is going to pull the date of the time log. It's going to pull the date. I'm sorry. The single item is going to it's going to create one single billing event line item for all time logs being invoiced. So in this case, let's say you want all your time logs that you're going to generate. So once we review those, you click review time logs. You want all these time logs to have one billing event line item. So this is what this grouping is going to do for you. The milestone, on the other hand, let's say here, you want to group it by milestone, right? So it's filtered down to those approved time logs within the first 2 weeks of November. Let's say that doesn't matter, and I actually just want to see all time logs so far. Then you'll be able to see all time logs. And that was later on in the month, but so the milestone grouping here, and once you review, it'll update. Your milestone grouping is going to group it by those two milestones. So you'll see that the milestone here, there's this one milestone, it's going to group these two time logs in one line item, billing event line item. And then this one is going to group these two time logs into one design line item as well. So you will, with these time log billing event line items, there will be two. Um, so it's going to group it by milestone. Whereas the actions, if you're going to group it by the actions, we'll see four different line items, right? Because these are four different actions that I've logged time to. So it's going to group these individually. It's going to create a line item for each of these actions on your invoice. So it kind of just depends on how you like to line up your line items to the customer. So it's going to group it as such. Whereas the project member is going to group it obviously by the project member of who logged what time. So Jimin, worked this many hours on this project. Janaya worked this many hours, so it's going to group it by Janaya and Jimin for each line item. You can see Jimin, as a developer, he's completed 15 hours, whereas Janaya completed 22 hours, right? So to keep it simple, I'm just going to stick with our single line item. And I want to make sure in this case, I'm just only going to, charge for the first 2 weeks of November. So I'm just going to select those three billing time logs. As we click next, we're going to see the expenses that we've drawn in. And we want to filter that out first. So we'll see automatically those two expenses that we've shown on the expense tab. This automatically shows us that this expense record was tied to this milestone. So that's nice to see. Whereas this expense record was tied to it's not tied to the milestone, so it was tied to the project in this sense. So you can add in both. I'm going to go ahead and add in both in this scenario. You can specify like which, it's similar to the time logs, you can specify which which expenses you want to see. So let's just say we did the same thing again, the first of the month. Then I wanted to only see expenses for the first 2 weeks, which has a date field. Yeah, it should pull in. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought this was the 14th, but no. Um, Yeah, so it'll pull in both, but let's say I just really want to pull in that first administrative fee cost, then I'm just going to put that amount in. Obviously, the date, approval date, this is like approval date that the expense has been approved upon, similar to the time logs. The item grouping in this sense is going to it's going to differ just a little bit. Very similarly, it's going to create a single line item for all your expenses if you're clicking the single grouping. The milestone grouping is going to group it by the milestone. Obviously, this is only one milestone, so well, it depends if you're adding both, but that will create two in this sense. Um, the category is going to create the expense category. So if we know that there's a category for admin or fees or material costs, depending on what category you've depicted on the expense record, it's going to group by each of those categories, and the incurred by, similarly, it's going to group it by the who was charging this amount, right? Um, so we'll keep it simple as well and just group it by the single line item. We're just going to group all of these together. That is when I want when you want to make sure to select this because if you don't select it, it's not going to pull it into your billing event. So the wizard works as such, and we can now move to the fourth step, which is review and save. Once we have all that generated for us, we'll see each of those line items. I know I did single grouping, so it's going to create each of those line items here for me. Um, so I'm just going to put time logs, um, half month, total expenses so far. So I'm just gonna add those in. There's a pick list field on the ledger code, so you can specify those pick list values if you wanted as well. Out of the box, there is a tax label on my project already, so it's going to be 15%. It's going to calculate that value for you automatically, so you don't have to worry about that. If you wanted to, since we did single grouping, if you wanted to add an extra line item, and let's just say last minute something was added, a project fee or um, miscellaneous costs, then I'm just going to put that the admin fee of $50, whatever that was. And if you wanted to put that, I'm just going to make that a flat rate, so I'm not too worried about that. But you can add in those number of line items that you want to select onto your TMI wizard, and then you can click save. The total amount was 7,000. It will take just a second, so you just refresh the page, or I like to just click away and come back. That will be generated automatically, and we see that the outstanding amount has risen to 7,000 as depicted on our outstanding amount on the billing event record. We will see if we click on the plus icon, all the billing event line items. So we have our time logs, the single grouping that we shown the expenses that were accumulated, and the what is it called, the fee. So each of those were depicted and um, added, and so that gives us our total amount of $7,050 here. And then this is still in draft status. As we go into them, the billing event record, the invoice, you can see that that has been updated. If you wanted to add in more, time logs and expenses, then you can auto add those at the end of the month to finalize one monthly bill. For now, we're just seeing what this looks like halfway through the month. We see those amounts roll up as we depicted. The tax rates rolls up from the billing line items, these fields here. And we can see that the template invoice is going to give us two options, a summary and a detailed list. So if we want to see a summary, then we can select that, or if you want to see more details on the invoice, you can do that as well. So that's going to generate a PDF URL for us, and we can go ahead and select that to generate those items, right? With those invoice, so we can see that and send to the customer. Awesome. So we see we have our invoice, um, my company, right? Address, information, my logo, the customer company and information. We can see our invoice number, purchase order numbers, if that is used here, invoice dates, due dates, the summary, these are all going to be controlled on the control pad. So if you go to your control pad on the Mission Control Console page, it is a billing event settings tile, which is way at the bottom. If you go scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see it right here. It's called the billing event settings tile. Usually those PDF will generate every 5 minutes. You want to make sure to save that. But if you wanted to generate that automatically, let's say I went in here and I updated, maybe I updated this name, then I can go back to that line item and I can update PDF and I can regenerate or just if I went in and edited those line items, right? I edit those line items here. Um, then I can whatever that looks like, or whatever that amount is. Let's say you manually adjusted those. Go back to the invoice and we can regenerate that. So this will be view PDF. This is going to regenerate that new invoice with the updates you made. Here we go. It's just gonna show the time logs now. Yeah. So it'll compare the two, this is the summary. So this is going to show just the description and the summary. It's going to be very straightforward, not any details. So if we go back and we want to see the details, let's say, then you can click a detailed view, click save here, and we can click view PDF. No, this is a details invoice. So this will show the billing event line item, the descriptions, and the budgets that you have on the milestones. Typically, this TMI, so I don't need that per se. But if you were controlled on the milestone, then that will show and populate. This will typically populate more on the control of the milestones. Since we didn't specify that we only charge, 50% of the total amount. We've already selected those totals time logs, which get added on the amount being invoiced column, and then which rolls up to obviously our subtotals and with the taxes and totals overall. So right now we know that there's no payment made on this invoice, so it's going to give us a total of $7,000 and $60.35 with the taxes included. I've added those contact and adjustments on the control pad, but also if there's a tax label that you want to specify fields and information that can also be controlled on the tax label as well. So that is our detailed invoice. Let's say that you want to go ahead and email that to the customer. I've added that component email tab to this page. And I've, maybe, um, let's say you want to email John and you can add that monthly invoice automatically, right? We can add in those invoices once you've gone ahead and saved them. Obviously, you can also just send them this link. Obviously, you want to make sure it's updated and it's the final one. So they will have access. Once they have access to this link, they will see what that will look like when the customer clicks on the link. So this is just a summary one, but if you wanted to update it, then you could update it and it'll generate that for you. You could add that link here to the customer and send it to them. Usually if you add a layout already, then that will auto-populate, hi John, please see the attached invoice and the invoice link. So you can email the customer this way. You could that way it's already depicted and then that'll be on the activity and that'll be shown here as well that Janaya has raised an invoice to the customer, right? That is our TMI wizard, so that you've seen how that gets added. Let me just show you quickly too, the billing payments. If we know that, the customer has already paid a certain amount, let's say, just gonna payment received is at the mid-month mark already, so we know that $5,000 check was already provided to us, and I'm going to create that payment record. We want to make sure it's tied to the billing event for this invoice that has been generated. And I'm going to go ahead and reevaluate that, regenerate that invoice for us. Awesome. This is still detailed, and so we have our $5,000 paid amount. So it's going to obviously subtract that from the total amount and then give us what the remaining balance is. So right now we see that the payment has been applied, so only $2,000 is remaining. So you can download that. You can send that to the customer. You can send this URL to the customer. If you're sending the URL, then I recommend updating that here, and you know. It updates the URL, and then you can send this URL to the customer as well. Kind of just depends on what you want to do. As we take a look at our other projects, so right now we've done our TMI wizard. Obviously, from the TMI wizard, you'll see automatically that you already have the manual tab since this is a time and materials project. So let's see. Here we go. You'll see that manual tab already provided for you as well. So this is just going to allow you to create, it's not going to pull in those time logs and expenses that you want. Let's just say it is that it'll just give you a one-stop shop to just create all those line items. So if you know you have 5 line items, you're gonna specify what those all look like, the amounts on them, it's gonna create that automatically for you on the manual tab. In this case, I have my fixed price project. So if I know that I have a fixed price project with expenses, I want to, use the manual tab for that. I have all my time logs as you see here. My notes, my approval, and the billing event line items. Awesome. And then you see your expenses here as well. I think I have one expense. Yeah, this one expense was approved. When we go to our generator, very similarly, those fixed price amounts and are going to populate, but go to our generator here, and we're going to send a flat rate, right, invoice to the customer. We're just going to say this is our final invoice bill to the customer. I'm just going to issue this since I know what the flat rate is. I'm just going to mark it as today, but I know that this will be due in the end of the month for this project since it is coming up here. Final bill. All right, and so we have our fixed our project budget. I already know that my invoice is going to be $5,000. So I'm going to put that number here that has been added. If you have a tax label on the project, then you can, add that and you can specify that amount if you need to. But if you wanted to add that, then that would just be marked as true. Let's just say I know I have that added, so I'm just going to keep that true. And then, or maybe since it is fixed price, then you have to add a tax. I mean, you just keep it straightforward. Um, this is our start point. Um, um, processing. A fee for a flat rate of 5,000 for whatever that was. You could add more if you need to, but I'm just keeping it simple. That created a manual billing event item with the record. And you just want to refresh the page and that will generate for you. As you see here, you can see which line items were created, $5,000. If we go into the invoice itself, you'll see how that looks like. We see that the tax amount did get applied. I mean, it's going to be here, but it's not applied because I didn't mark it as true since I know it's a flat rate that I'm charging to the customer. So I know that this project is fixed price plus expenses. So if you know that there are expenses, then I would automatically just auto add expenses here. And that will create a line item on the billing event as well. So that is going to pull in that expense, and now that expense has been added, you'll see that there. And let's go ahead and create that detailed invoice, and we'll generate that. So this is how we are manually creating an invoice with auto add expenses. Yep, so we see the expense we get added in along with the flat rate fee, and we can send this bill to the customer for 5,500. This is just a detailed version of it, but you get the point with the manual tab. When we are here, we can go, okay, now as we take a look at our projects, let's see. We have now used our time and materials wizard and our manual wizard tab. We are now looking at our control on the milestone. So this is pertaining to, right, control on the milestone billing type with that's manual billing cycle that has been depicted on the details page already. As we take a look, we can see automatically we have three milestones, Janai, Jimin, and Sam, how much time budget has been allocated for each of these. And I'm going to pull my create milestones because we want to make sure the milestone billing tab, billing type, I'm sorry, the milestone billing type. And if you go into them, you'll see it right here under the financials section that the milestone billing type is right here. So you have to make sure to fill this out with the three pick list values that are available to you. So it has to be one of these. You can't add in other values. It has to be what you've set it to. So if I know this project, this milestone in itself is going to be fixed set for 3,000, no more, no less, then I've set that as fixed price, right? I like to add the create milestones, add that milestone billing type onto this page, and that way I can see automatically, okay, I want to charge the design milestone as fixed price. I want to charge this as time and materials, and I want to charge this as expenses. You can add this on the milestone, create milestones object record field set. So I've added this one here. I've depicted that here in the milestone budgets, you can automatically adjust that all in one place, right? These are all fields on the milestone. And if you wanted to update the action owner, you could do that as well. I know that this milestone for build is going to take way more time, so it's going to be a time and materials billing type, whereas the other one is just delivery, so it's going to be plus expense, fixed price plus expenses. I've saved that to the milestone. And I've gone ahead and gone to my billing. Um, on the amount remaining, this is just looking at our total values, right? Since this is controlled on the milestone, it's going to take the project budget minus the amount invoiced. The amount invoiced in this scenario, it hasn't been depicted. We don't have a amount project budget that I've put here. Um, or actually we do. Let's see. Because it's controlled on the milestone, it's going to pull in different billing types. Yeah. And so that will get depicted. Usually that should roll up, but we'll double check that in a moment. However, we can see our generate button is available to us, and then we'll see the control of the milestone tab automatically on the generator wizard. And when we are on here, we can see our three milestone line items automatically, and then you can depict what specifications you want to generate, right? So if I have my bill to my customer, let's just call this our November invoice. And our type is invoice, and we'll draft it. We'll issue it when that is done. Summary, final bill, however you want to specify that. And then we're gonna make sure to auto add expenses on the project as well. And let's say you have numerous expenses for each month, and let's say so this is gonna pull in that expense for this month. So I'm just going to pull in those expenses for this month. Just going to add those expenses for that month. If you know that there's not many expenses, then you don't have to worry about this. Since I already know that there's only one or two, then I don't have to worry about that, the date range. But you'll see the milestones, controlled on the milestone billing types and the line items that get generated. Since we know this is 3,000, we can set that manual entry for 3,000 here, whatever that fixed price amount is. Um, or since this case, let's say that I don't want mine to be 3,000, right? Just gonna remove that number. And let's say that it's gonna take, I want to build the percentage of what I've depicted, right? So currently I know it's halfway through the month, so I'm just gonna check 50% of the design build, it will be charged. Um, in this case, actually, fixed price plus expenses. I want to do that here instead. I'm going to charge the total amount for that 3,000 for that first milestone that has been completed already. Um, the deliver is still yet to come, so I'm just going to charge 50% for that for now. And then the time and materials on the build is still in progress, but for now, we're going to make sure to auto add those time logs and expenses onto this. So that will create one line item for the build, and it's going to create another line item for the expenses since they're two different objects. You can specify a date range if you have like time logs within, you only want to include time logs in the first 2 weeks, let's say. So let's do that for now, and we'll see how that looks like. So it's going to pull in those time logs and expenses within this date range for this time and materials milestone. So as we create that, we see that the total comes to 4,000, and we're going to save this. So it automatically builds those line items for you. You don't have to manually create them. Um, you'll see that that got generated, and you'll see each milestone. You'll see the milestone for design and deliver, and the build in this sense. Let's double check our expenses, right? You have our expenses here. I believe there's only one expense, yeah. So I only pulled in the expenses that were in the first 2 weeks of November. So it's only going to pull in that, I believe, actually, billing. Billing here. And you can also see on your time logs which ones have been pulled in. Did I click log, auto add expense time logs? Should have. So it looks like those were not tied to the invoice just yet. So I want to make sure that that does get tied correctly. Control of the milestone. The expenses were added. I believe I set a date and that's why it didn't add, but I'm going to redo that here. I'm going to auto add those time logs since that wasn't added in. Recreate that manual entry. That amount is set for 3,000. Wait, and I'm going to adjust this with the percent. We should see one for 50% of this. Yep. So those two milestones, two line items. You should see the build time and materials come in as well. We're gonna auto add all expenses. We don't have to worry about that. Time logs. Okay. This should give us okay. Now the time logs have been included. Um, so when we open that up, we will see the time logs for that build. It gave us 15,000 for that build, whereas the expenses were already tied, so it's not going, so the expenses were already tied to this one, so it's not going to pull up in this one. So let's go ahead and we can go ahead and delete this invoice here since this is the one I don't want to see. Awesome. So we see that for 19,000. If we go to our, just wanted to show you, if we go to our time logs now, we can see that those time logs have been set for that billing event line item. Since this was on the build, when we know the build is a time and materials billing type, then it's going to pull in those build time logs and it's computed to, that amount for the developer that he logged time to. So those have been added to this amount. And let's say we want to go back and add those expenses, right? When we go onto this invoice and we want to auto add, let's say we want to auto add those expenses. Um, we can, we know that we did auto add it already, but the expenses were already tied to the other invoice. So we're going to redo that and we're going to re-auto add those expenses. Now those expenses have been added in. We see that that value has gone up and the total amount is now 19,300 with taxes, obviously. We can generate that here and we'll see how that looks like in our invoice. Awesome. So we have our summary invoice. We have information provided to us. Obviously, the summary is just going to show the description of each of the line items. We see the design milestone, the deliver milestone, and the build milestone, but since this is TMI with expenses. I made sure to add all expenses because the build milestone only has one expense, but that gets included in the auto add expenses here. So everything rolls up to $19,350 with the taxes accrued, then it gives us that total amount here that the customer owes. Once we have that, we can download that and send it to the customer as I've shown earlier. I've added my email feature. That way I can just automatically add that here and attach that the file or that link here and copy and paste that over here as well. You can set up those email templates that, dear customer, please have your please see your attached invoice and whatnot as well. So you can email that to the customer and that will get updated that was been sent. That this invoice has been generated, but that contact was made. And that way you can update on the billing of an item that was, that was paid or that was issued to the customer and whatnot as well. Awesome. That was completes our billing event generator wizard on our billing tab. We see that amounts get added up to the control on the milestone. We see that for our TMI wizard tab and our control on the milestone tab and our manual tab. So that way, this is how you would generate a manual billing event for those 4 different project types, but also on these 3 different generating tabs. So that just gives you a better understanding of how that works on our various billing types and milestones. If you have any questions, feel free to input them in the chat. And I'll make sure to answer your questions. I don't see any questions at the moment. Let me double check Q&A. Okay, I don't see any questions. I awesome. Okay. I'll go ahead and end our Cosmo Campfire for this month. If you don't have any questions, oh, yes. So this recording will be available on our Cosmo Campfire website. So if you go to aprika.com and go to our resources for Cosmo campfires, then that will be generated there in just a day or two. And so this recording will be saved there as well. We have our other resources available on our knowledge base on setting up the billing event, invoices for billing management, and billing tabs, and you can look at the generator and articles to help as well. But this recording will be saved on our Cosmo campfires. Awesome. Thank you guys. Awesome. Thank you all for our call today. I will answer. Okay. I think that answers all our questions now. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us at support@aprika.com. That will be the best way um, to stay in contact with us. Um, and then that way we can where help answer any other questions that you might have. So that wraps up our Cosmo Campfire. Thank you for joining us. You can reach out to us on our chatbot on our website or our support create a ticket using on our website as well, or you can email us directly at support@aprika to create a ticket for you. We have our videos, knowledge-based articles if you need a resource, about where to reference those listed here as well. Do let me know if you have any more questions, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you all.